The other day, I was watching a Humanist Report video. Link to that video and all others referenced will be in the description. I was watching this video when he referenced Chris Cuomo complaining about Zoran Mamdani's win in New York. In the clip, he had said some brain-dead things, and after the unfortunate decision to listen to the full video on his channel, I found 5 clips worth bringing up for further discussion and correction. The first is him stating his premise, that the Democratic Party has entered Maga mode. Let's listen to his view and discuss what he gets wrong after.
The Democratic Party is now officially in MAGA mode. We are now on both sides in a period of extremism. The same way MAGA played with the prejudices of white nationalism, you're seeing an identical dynamic on the left with prejudices like tacitly supporting extreme Islamism or targeting Jews. For the right, it's migrants. For the left, it's Jews. It's fundamentalist Christians dominating the right. It's fundamentalist Islamists making headway on the left. I know that doesn't sound like Democrats, but that party is dead. What it will be reborn as, we'll see. And this is...
So Cuomo believes the Democratic Party is dead, entered MAGA mode, and is now an extreme party. He gives the sadly overused Islamophobic argument that human rights of the Palestinian people is the same as supporting religious fundamentalist terrorists. These bigots are so quick to hide behind their shield of anti-Semitism, but forget their Islamophobia is on full display. We all have equal human rights, or none of us do. Moving on to a statement about the death of the Democratic Party. Zoran's win wasn't the death of the party. It was the rebirth. The death of the party was when the Democrats under Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump a second time. And it's a good thing for the centrist and liberal leadership of this party to be replaced. What Chris Cuomo and other protectors of the status quo are doing is lying to you, saying the same people who caused our problems are also the solution. Centrism and liberalism gave us fascism. To defeat it, we need to return to the political lens that was used before to defeat fascism. That lens is social democracy, as it was used under FDR. A well-regulated capitalist society that puts political focus on improving the lives of all our people. Now, Zoran Mamdani is not a social democrat. He is a democratic socialist and a member of the DSA. All of that is fine. These two political lenses are allies and must work together to take power away from the spineless, centrist, and liberal bigots in the Democratic Party at all levels. Now, right-wingers, of course, will call all democratic policies socialist. They've done it for decades. What remains unhelpful to the democratic cause is when centrists and liberals also use this right-wing framing to fearmonger about the better half in their party. For example, let's now hear Chris fearmonger about Mamdani's socialism.
The outcome in this election wasn't about affordability or about real change. The winner is an open socialist, and the Democratic Party is now just that, socialistic. But be clear, this is a fictional fix for very real frustrations. An extreme suggestion of free everything that sounds great to those who feel cheated by the system because they are cheated by the system. But this is never going to happen. It makes sense that the left would want to match what beat them, if you think about it.
All right, let's think about it. No. Chris, you goddamn dipshit. The MAGA movement is fascist, consolidating central authority to Trump. They violate human rights and checks and balances of our government, all to pursue greater wealth for themselves and their donors, changing our democracy into a corporate feudal kingdom hellscape. This right-wing framing of the progressive left, or socialist left, or whatever they refer to us as, must be rejected as the false bullshit propaganda it is. The reality is everything Mamdani described his campaign as is true. A major problem in this country is affordability, and rent control is a very popular idea.
Once again, why? You said that the rent is too damn high.
Damn right. The system is rigged, and Chris Cuomo accepts the frustrations are real, A real fucked up way to say Americans are dying from lack of health care and evicted from their homes because they can't afford rising rent costs from monopoly algorithms, by the way, jackass. What makes me angry about this is after stating, yes, peasants, you are fucked, his next thought is to then tell you the answer we need. A mixed market economy through social democracy or democratic socialism will not work. Their answer, their lie, they tell you ad nauseum to convince you that the same establishment politicians that created this mess will be the same ones to get us out of it. Absolutely not, and Mamdani's win scares them because they are seeing their control of the narrative finally slipping away. Continuing to the next clip, the fearmongering against socialism continues. Let's see if you catch the factual inaccuracy in this next clip.
Okay? And by the way, this as a device in politics is not new. And it works. The French Revolution was led by screams of kill the rich, and that was 1789. And the influences then were Marxist and communist, just like they are on the left today.
No, dipshit. The French Revolution was not influenced by Marxism. You are correct that the French Revolution was 1789. In fact, that is when it started, in 1789, and lasted for 10 years through 1799. However, Marx wasn't born until 1818, you ignorant jackass. The influence of the French Revolution included the thoughts of the Enlightenment period, such as liberty, reason, and constitutional governments challenging the authoritarian monarchies at the time. The other major influence was the success of the American Revolution. Now, does Chris Cuomo know better? Or is it honest ignorance? Either way, this isn't mixing up information and getting something wrong. They have a news team, surely they could have fact checked themselves. This is deliberate misinformation to fearmonger about socialism. And this is not far off from the 1950s style McCarthyism. And if Chris Cuomo is just going to do McCarthyism, then fuck off and join the Republican Party. He continues with more bullshit. We will listen to these last two clips and then move on from Chris Cuomo's infuriating political takes.
So the left is now generating what I call its reaction formation to that, an equal opposite, a mirror image. What is that? Playing to how the poor are oppressed here and elsewhere has gotten traction, and it should. But that's why you see free everything. Anti-police, pro-Hamas, not even rejecting calls to globalize the Intifada, outrage at ICE, embracing the anger of those rejected by MAGA.
So he states that the left has created a mirror of MAGA, and that defines it as the goals of the left include being anti-police, pro-Hamas, and rejecting calls to globalize the Intifada, outrage at ICE, and embracing the anger of those rejected by MAGA. Let's break down this bullshit. Starting with this last point. I still don't have an idea what the fuck he means by embracing the anger of those rejected by MAGA. Maybe someone can give me an example in the comments below. Moving on to the outrage at ICE. That is a completely reasonable and valid position to have. ICE has been going around not identifying who they are, why they are there. No presenting of warrants. They are terrorizing our communities and human trafficking people. Their illegal behavior has already led to criminals posing as ICE to get away with their own crimes. How the fuck are you not outraged by ICE and their actions, Chris Cuomo? That is a legitimate thing to be concerned with. The next two, let's group and identify the statements for what they are. The left, according to Chris Cuomo, is pro-Hamas and refuses to reject the calls to globalize the Intifada. God damn it, Chris, once again, your Islamophobia is on full display. Being pro-Palestinian, pro-human rights for all people, and being against genocide does not mean that you by default support Hamas. And for the 10 or so people out there that do, who cares? Are any of them in positions of government? No. Are any of them important people? No. The vast majority of all people who are protesting the Israeli genocide is just that. They're protesting genocide. They do not support terrorism. Yes, they condemn the acts of Hamas on October 7th, but that doesn't justify the ongoing genocide for Well, moving on to 2 years now. The vast majority of all people want an end to the military conflicts, including this grotesque genocide against Palestinians carried out by the terrorists in the IDF and Israeli government. The statement about the global intifada appears to be their new tagline against Mamdani and the left. It isn't true, like most of the arguments stated earlier, but that won't stop these bigots from repeating them. The last point on the left being anti police. Again, more lying, reframing of the issue. The left wants to end police brutality, and like Mamdani described in his mayoral campaign, an end to using police in situations that can be handled by other medical professionals. For example, someone having a mental breakdown. Instead of sending in police, you send unarmed medical professionals to assist with the situation. Obviously, if it escalates, the cops could still be called in at the medical provider's discretion, but the police shouldn't be the first response to every one of those emergencies. That is enough of Cuomo. But there's one other conversation I want to discuss quickly, as it ties in with political discourse and the misinformation surrounding the left. In my previous video, I discussed the political lenses that are used in the United States. With Cuomo, we have seen someone who probably describes himself as being a centrist or a liberal. I'm not sure which one, if he's stated which one he prefers. On the other hand, Stephen A. Smith, speaking with Jon Stewart on the June 9th, 2025 episode of The Daily Show, he states clearly that he views himself as a centrist. Let's listen to his centrist perspective on the 2024 election results.
Listen, there are things. I don't think anybody. I'm a centrist at heart. I always vote. I usually vote Democrat. The only Republican I've ever voted for was Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey. Outside of that, I've always voted Democrat. But there's a lot of things that I think can be done differently. I thought the left blew this election more so than him winning it. Really? Oh yeah, the left definitely blew it. I thought that the progressive left, the extreme left, really ruined the election for the Democrats. And that's how I view it. It's true. And
Really? Really, Stephen A. Smith? The extreme left is what lost the election? Wasn't the fact Joe Biden canceled the Democratic primary? Wasn't the fact Joe Biden supported a genocide for over a year? Wasn't the fact that Kamala Harris didn't earn her nomination, whether through a Democratic primary process or at minimum through an open convention process? It wasn't the fact that once she had that nomination, then instead of campaigning with her popular VP pick, Tim Walz, she was campaigning with Liz Cheney. But no, apparently in the centrist view of Stephen A. Smith, it was the extreme left that lost the election. Okay. Also, this is now twice the left has been described as extreme. We will discuss these so-called extreme positions in a minute, but first let's listen to the next part of this conversation, where Jon Stewart correctly pushes back on this nonsense.
And if you're the left and you engaged in what the right would say is lawfare, trying to use the courts to keep from having to compete with him, right, and then you're putting forth some of these policies, whether it's transgender issues or other stuff that they would bring up, you had a lot of people that saying that's not where our focus should lie. We're not trying.
Don't you think that's their focus?
Whose focus?
The right. Okay. I feel like the right is far more focused on where you go to the bathroom than the left. I feel like the left is a more laissez-faire, like, look, I think the left is it's easy to paint the extreme, right, and to create a hyperbolic vision, right, of the left as this woke army. I think it's exaggerated.
Yes.
John is absolutely 1000% correct. The left consists of millions of hardworking, honest human beings who want a life better for themselves and everyone around them. I am so tired of Republicans and right-wing media taking something the left says, misrepresenting it, or leading with a different outright lie altogether. Then what becomes more disgusting and more tiring is people in the Democratic Party, our ideological allies supposedly. For decades, it has been vote blue no matter who, when it's their corporate candidate. Now that Mamdani won, the centrists and liberals are looking for any option other than blue, as they repeat the same lies and misinformation from the right wing. That is why the lies about the left wing are not only exaggerated by the right, but then the lie is further amplified by both wings of corporate media in the right wing and in the centrist and liberal left wing. Cuomo earlier mentioned the Democratic Party has entered a blue MAGA phase. The truth is, the Democratic Party always had a wing within it that was like MAGA. The left and right wing MAGAs are not the same in their ideology, but rather their similarity to blind leadership and party loyalty. In this final clip, let's listen to Stephen A. Smith describe blue MAGA, only to then incorrectly apply them to the left.
When the red wave didn't happen and the Democrats won more than anybody expected them to in 2022, they let them get away with it. And think about it. You call yourself the left, you call yourself a progressive party, and you are standing up at the State of the Union clapping and chanting 4 more years for a man that was going to be 82. Right. Once the inauguration date took place, with 4 more years. And then America looked at you and said, have you lost your ever-loving mind? That's what the hell happened. It's very simple. It ain't that damn complicated. It really isn't.
Here is what is so frustrating with Stephen A. Smith's point here. The left, whom Stephen believes are the problem, were the ones calling for Biden to step down and allow for an open primary in 2024. The blue MAGA in the Democratic Party are the centrists and liberals who blindly lied to us, saying Biden and his health were fine. The same people Stephen A. Smith correctly identifies that chanting 4 more years for Biden was an idiotic thing to do. Yes, of course it was. But those are your fellow centrists and liberals, not social democrats and democratic socialists, the extreme left. The Democratic Party no longer requires the policy input or leadership of centrists and liberals. Cuomo recently complained that AOC is killing the Democratic Party. Incorrect, Chris. The Democratic Party, using the neoliberal model and operating with the political lenses of centrism and liberalism, that Democratic Party is dead. It died when it lost to Donald Trump a second time in 2024. What Democrats like AOC and Zohran Mamdani are doing is not killing the party. They are giving new life into the party. A Democratic Party with a new operating system. A party that recriminalizes corruption, prioritizes the protection of human rights, and putting into place a system similar to what former President FDR referred to as, in his 1944 State of the Union address, an economic Bill of Rights. The idea every American can afford a home, provide for their family, obtain medical care when it is needed, and receive an income that provides not just enough to survive, but thrive. A life with dignity and basic stability. If you want more than the basics, then you can go work for more. That is not a radical idea. This is not the left demanding equality of outcomes, as so many dipshits will misframe the ideology. This is a demand for equality of basic human rights through universal programs. Not free stuff, but social services and a fair social contract in exchange for our fucking paid tax dollars. It is our money that funds the government, and our representatives that are supposed to represent our beliefs. It is time to elect officials that represent social democracy and or democratic socialism. These positions are not radical, nor are they extreme. This is what the majority of Americans want. About 70% support Medicare for all, 65% support increasing the minimum wage. Numbers fluctuate, polls change, but it's hovers around those numbers. If Democrats run on these issues nationwide, they will earn the support of the majority of voters. And if you are an American that believes in these policies but don't see a candidate running on those issues in your area, then you need to become that candidate. Run for office. If you truly believe that government can provide solutions to many of the problems that we've created, and using a social democratic or democratic socialist political lens to solve those problems, that is what the future of the Democratic Party looks like. Some candidates worth supporting are already running. One of these candidates is Kat Abogazale, running for Congress in Illinois' 9th District. Her campaign is using campaign funds to help people in her district. It's a fantastic model more politicians should use going forward. The days of wasting millions of dollars on TV ads and idiot consultants needs to come to an end. I hope to see more candidates like that as we approach the 2026 midterms. The majority of our current representatives have shown no spine to fight fascism, and in several cases have either supported it or at least been complicit in it. On June 24th of this year, 128 House Democrats joined Republicans in killing the articles of impeachment brought forth by Representative Al Green from Texas's 9th District. Only 79 House representatives out of 435, 432, because 3 of them were Democrats that died earlier in the year. Only 79 of them did the right thing in supporting Green's articles of impeachment. Trump has committed multiple impeachable offenses, but it appears clear that any accountability will only be possible after the midterms if we replace every one of those spineless, fascist-sympathizing bastards. Of course, that's also if midterms happen. Well, hopefully they will. Until then, that will be all for this video. Thank you all for listening, and take care.